in sort of trying to attain the top level, you strip everything else away and you leave your main objective, which is rowing.
There is a sort of a particular, I think, British fascination with doing kind of tough, slightly extraordinary physical activities. This would probably extend back to, I don't know, I'm not sort of overstating our case, but you know, whether it's climbing Mount Everest and things like that. The British have always been at the forefront of doing slightly odd and extremely difficult physical challenges. And I think the boat race has some connection to that. It's an extremely tough race physically. It's 3 times the length of the Olympic Games. It's rowed through extraordinary conditions, and the sort of the suffering is extremely visible because it is televised. I think you're able to gain that kind of access to the sort of the more inner experience of the rowers, much more than you ever would through many other sporting situations. You know, you're really there suffering away in front of the television, and your agonies are being demonstrated, and people can live that through with you. And I think that to me is a big part of it.
The year starts in September, which is before the actual academic year starts. On the first day, we don't really know quite often who's going to turn up through the door, and so we'll end up with a squad of usually sort of 30 to 40 guys who want to try and win the place in one of the 2 boats.
Obviously, we only need 16 rowers, and we need to develop them a lot. So the bigger the group, the more the coaching is diluted. We like to get to 24 reasonably soon. That gives us a nice sort of working number.
In the first week, we'll usually do an ergo test, which will sort of skim off a few of the guys who maybe haven't quite realised what the standard's like.
We do a lot of field testing and checking what's going on. We also use a system that's called an omega wave. So we're measuring a range of parameters to do with central nervous system activation and cardiac functioning.
Sean's coaching style is very meticulous. He uses the scientific method and applies it to rowing, and he's had a lot of success with it.
Sean Bowden's a great guy. He's very focused, very driven. He's a great leader. I mean, if he wasn't scary, then he'd be disappointing. He'd be lacking, wouldn't he?
I'd like to think I'm a fairly humorous person, but no, I mean, I'm there to focus, and I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, and they're putting an enormous amount into it and trusting you with this, and I think you have to take that really seriously.
Altogether, we put in 7 months of training just for one race, and I suppose over the course of a rowing career, that's not a particularly large amount of time, but it does sort of feel like it goes on forever when you're actually doing it. That whole 7 months, there's nothing else that matters in your life. It's just winning one race and beating Cambridge. You go to sleep and you dream about it, and then you wake up at 6 AM and you have to go train again. So you've got to enjoy suffering.
When you sign up to Oxford University Boat Club, you're there to beat Cambridge, and you're there to use whatever means you can. It's like good and evil. You wouldn't have either without the other. So, I have a healthy appreciation of what they do, but they'll always be the enemy. Well, that's passion, isn't it?